Hello, everyone. I'm Mandi Rae with OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrology, and I'm here with Meghna Bhagat. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mandi, for having me. I'm delighted to be part of the AstroBiz Summit.
Yeah, the AstroBiz Summit, which is what's coming up in April 25th through 27th. And you will be sharing something that I'm extremely curious about, a talk on, and let me get this up. It is the Barbaric Yawp, Discover Your Authentic Astrological Voice. And so I'm going to pick your brain on this a little because we talked just a little bit before we started recording, and you told me it was a Walt Whitman quote, or it comes from a Walt Whitman quote. What is that?
The Song of Myself, which is one of his most celebrated poems. And the quote is, I too am not a bit tamed. I too am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yawp over the roofs of the world. It's a goosebumper for me because we all learn astrology from lineages, right? My lineage includes Stephen Forrest and Jason Hawley and the School of Traditional Astrology and all these different pieces, and how many other lectures and people I've learned from. But somewhere inside me, they all blend, they all merge, they all form. I almost imagine like a cauldron inside which all those inputs go, and then I swirl it around, and then from it comes what I express into the world. And instead of us being parrots to what we have learned from others, this talk is about discovering what makes our voice unique, what makes us who we are, and how do we then translate that, our worldview, our particular perspective, into the world in a way that is accessible, relatable, responsible. So that's what I'm hoping we can do with this talk, to find our own barbaric yawp. Now I wish I'd called it your barbaric yawp instead
Ah,
of the barbaric yawp,
I
because
just
there's
love
no
the
the.
the
Yeah.
term yawp is so like and it catches your attention. So I think either way, I love it. So but yeah, yours, because we know that there's so many astrology students and practicing astrologers, new ones, people who've been doing it for years, and so many different techniques. And whenever you get into it, you start to go, how am I different? What is it? And I think to me, what this says to me is, what is your medicine? What is it that you're doing in the world? So I
Beautifully put.
yeah. And how do you look at charts to do this, or is this more just coming from your inner self that you're working it out with people?
Well, the talk itself will have some part guided meditation. I'm the last talk of the entire summit. And we begin, and it'll just have been a new moon. So the moon will have just entered Taurus and having just separated from its deep embrace with the sun. And so I feel like what I'd like to do, because I've seen where I'm placed, is to give people, you've learned so much over the last 17 lectures, right? So what we want to do is translate, how does that, which one of those techniques, you're probably not going to do all 17 things that people tell you. Which ones are going to be the ones for you? How are you going to express your particular perspective into the world through that? So there'll be a guided meditation in the very beginning of it to help you kind of parse out what you remember from everything that you've learned in the summit, and then pick and choose. It's like almost like being in a bejeweled forest, and which jewels are, and knowing the path there and back so that you can go in there and pick the jewels that work for you. And then I think of it as when we share astrology in the world, we were just talking before we started recording about how there's a camp in the world who talks about benefics and malefics and very important astrology that's passed down from the ancients. And then there's another group of people who really hate the idea of malefics and benefics. And then there's those of us in between who are like, well, the whole spectrum is contained inside every single planet. So which perspective are you coming from? What do you want your astrology to say? And I think if we express our voice clearly in the world, then we attract people who are hungry for that perspective. If we are marketing ourselves as one thing, but inside we're something different, it takes a lot of effort to be something we're not. And then B, we're going to attract clients who are listening to the marketing but what they're going to get is different than what the marketing is. And I think we end up not serving astrology that way. So my hope is that when we find our discover our barbaric yawp, we discover how to share it in the world in a way that we attract the people who resonate with our particular voice, law of attraction stuff, right?
Mm.
And it also gives us the opportunity to serve astrology, because when clients come to us and they get the thing that they came for because they resonated with us and we resonate back with them, then we put out into the world more, yeah, man, astrology is amazing. And that spreads. And so I guess it's my way of serving astrology also. And I hope that made sense.
It did. And, I just talking about it in this way, I think it's something I've been interviewing all of the presenters for this, and most of them are saying to find your niche, and to find what it is. And I feel like this speaks to that, but almost in a different way. It's to find your niche, but also how to communicate it and how to work with people inside of who you are. And whenever we talk about astrology and business, I think it makes some people nervous. People will start a practice and then realize it's a business after, So do you have anything to say on that, on astrology as a business and how you work with that, and how you've worked with it over the years of yourself practicing?
Yeah, it's two totally different skills. We get trained in astrology. We take tons and tons of classes. We read books, we do webinars, we do workshops. And then there's this business side, which nobody knows how to do. It's, there's a show that was on TV for a while where this guy would go and buy businesses. His skill was running businesses, but he would buy bakeries and hairdresser shops and tiny home builders and all these other things that these people were good at. But the idea, your ability to practice astrology well does not always translate into your ability to make a sustainable income through it. And so my experience has been to follow my excitement. And the speaking thing has just shot through the roof for me. I joined Kepler Astrologers Toastmasters, and I won a spot to be able to speak at the OPA Spring Conference in 2023. And from then on, it's just, I've been speaking everywhere. And so my voice, my barbaric yawp, has been invited to be expressed. And by following this trail of breadcrumbs that just kind of happened by me following my excitement.
Mm.
And so I guess I'm going to spend more time on how to get into that part of the world, how to get into the speaking part of the world, and how to build a community and a following through that.
Mm. Yeah, because
Does
there's
that
so
make
many
sense?
different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's writing, there's YouTube, there's presenting, there's teaching, there's client work. There's just so many ways, and I'm really excited for this business summit for that reason, because you can get lost in it. There can be lack of clarity with what do I. So following excitement is a really, really wonderful piece of advice for anyone watching this. So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that really does it. I don't want to spoil the rest of your presentation, so we don't want to go too far into it, but I really appreciate you sharing with me. And do you have anything else to share before we leave?
Just that I'm also figuring out how to build a business that's sustainable still. And I am I'm excited to learn from some of the people who are going to be speaking, actually all of them, and then deciding for myself what fits me and my work, because my work is that cauldron of blending so many different ways of doing astrology and doing life. And I hope that people who are curious about how they personally express astrology, how they want to put it out into the world as an expression of their own heart, will find time to come to my talk.
Oh, yes, please join us. You can go to opaastrology.org to register for this, and also to look at memberships. We have all kinds of offerings from OPA. And if you want to find Meghna, you can find her at meghnabhagat.com. Is that correct?
Yes,
My
exactly.
Southern accent probably messes all that up, but I appreciate it. And we're both living in the South, and that was a really, really fun thing to find out. So I really appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you so much, Mandi Rae.
Thank you. We'll see you guys later. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave some comments, and I will put everything also in the information section. Thank you, guys.